Hello friends, thanks for joining me for another Facebook Live today. I'm in another hotel room, traveling, enjoying life, and I want to talk today about my motto, which is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, because suffering is the mental process that we have surrounding the events in our life. So everybody has struggles in life, everybody has challenges, but not everybody suffers at the same level. And we don't have to buy into the story of the suffering. It's the story that we have about the thing that's happening that creates the suffering for us. And I didn't realize this for most of my life. In fact, I have a clear memory of when my kids were in high school. I had this constantly running story in my head that said, no one appreciates me. I work so hard and take care of everybody in the family, and no one appreciates what I do. And I would have that story running when I was cleaning, doing housework, when I was cooking, when I was doing yard work, when I was driving the kids to their activities. It didn't matter what it was, that was my story. And that story created a lot of suffering for me because it made me feel bad about myself. And it wasn't a true story. It was a belief system that I had. And one day I was in the kitchen wiping down the counters, and I realized that that story was going on in my head. Oh, I'm always having to clean up behind everybody and no one appreciates me. In 12-step work, they have signs in recovery houses that say, we wash the dishes to wash the dishes. We don't wash the dishes to get love and appreciation from someone else. We don't wash the dishes so that people will think that we're a good person. We don't do those chores for any ulterior motive. We do it to get the job done. That's the only reason to do it. And if you don't want to get the job done, then don't do it. If it's important to you, you'll do it. But I was frustrated because it was important to me and it wasn't important to anybody else. Nobody else was doing it. I felt like I always had to do it and it felt like a burden. But that was part of that victimhood story that I had in my head. And once I dropped that story and I looked around and I said, well, everybody's shoes are all over the place. Do I want to pick up the shoes so that I can feel happy that I live in a clean home and that I'm in a neat environment? Or do I want to just leave them there because I don't feel like doing it? Those are my two choices. The going into the story of other people should be doing it is no longer an option for me. I want it done, I do it. I don't care if it's done, I don't do it. That's it, A or B. I don't know if you're familiar with Byron Katie. She's a really fascinating woman that had this huge spiritual awakening, and she said that before her awakening, her religion used to be, my kids should pick up their shoes. That was her religion. That was what she put all her energy and belief into, that other people should do certain things the way she wanted them done. And you can't change anybody. You can't make anybody do anything. The only control that you have in life is over yourself and your own actions and your own thoughts. And if you stay in your own lane and just worry about yourself and what you're doing, life becomes much better. As soon as you get out of your lane and start being concerned about what other people should be doing, it becomes pretty miserable. So I wanted to talk about gratitude also today, because when I was growing up, gratitude felt heavy for me. It felt like this forced, obligatory thing, like you should be grateful that you have food to eat because children are starving in China. Or you should be grateful that you have clothes to wear because poor kids don't have clothes and shoes. It was always this sort of like forced, very unnatural concept in my mind to be grateful for something. And I used to despise Thanksgiving. I was like, this is such a dumb holiday. Everybody is told to get together and feel grateful for what they have. And then the women do all this cooking and then all this cleaning, and what kind of holiday is that? What a ripoff. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I truly understood what the feeling of gratitude was all about. That it's a feeling of joy and a feeling of bliss and a feeling of like acceptance. And one of my acquaintances shared a story with me recently where she thanked me for letting her know that suffering is optional. She told me that her father and her brother both passed within a week of each other, and she was really miserable and suffering and sad and grieving. And instead of allowing herself to, we all have those feelings, and those are natural feelings, but you always have the choice to stay in the feeling, to let the feeling run through you and pass through you, or to hold on to the feeling. Holding on to the feeling is where the suffering comes in. So she said, I remembered that you said that suffering is an option, and I decided during that week, instead of feeling sorry for myself all week, to lean into gratitude. And I was grateful that people were writing the obituaries or helping with the funeral arrangements or bringing food or just being there for me as a shoulder to cry on. And I focused on how grateful that I was for those things instead of on the sorrow. And that made all the difference for me. So that's all I have to share today. I just really wanted to talk to you about how gratitude can be such, it's one of the highest vibe feelings, and it can lift you out of the suffering. If you feel that you're suffering, change your attention away from the thing that's making you miserable or the story that you're repeating to yourself, and shift it to what you have to feel grateful for. We all have things in our lives that we take for granted, and it's not a hard practice. It's just a matter of awareness that you don't want to feel miserable anymore. You want to feel good, and you can choose. Thanks for showing up. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and I love you. Bye-bye.